Alrighty, the agenda, City of Clear Lake Shores, City Council called to order, regular meeting, March 1st, 2022 at 6:30. All council members are present. Item 2 is pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the Texas flag. Alright, item number 3, presentation. Or you think he's gonna be here in a little bit? We can defer that off for a little bit. We'll move on to item number 4, reports from council. Councilman Steve Wirtis.
Nothing to report at this time, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Wirtis. Councilman Rick Fisher.
Now, the Parks and Pool Committee was canceled for this month, so they've got it rescheduled for, I guess, March 14th now, next second Monday in March, so we'll have a report from then. And also just hope everybody got a chance to go out and vote today. And I just want to give a shout out to one of our Parks and Pool Committee members, Melissa Stauffer. Just saw her over there at the voting center in Kemah doing volunteer work, so kudos to her for that.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Councilwoman Monica Leday.
I don't have anything to report.
Thank you, Ms. Leday. Councilman Alex Scanlon.
No report.
Thank you, Mr. Scanlon. Councilman Randy Chronister.
We have some white X's all over the island on the streets. Those were marked for getting bids. Kevin is working on getting some bids so they do some crack sealing so we can preserve the length of the years of our road without having to redo too many of them. So that's what those are, in case anybody was wondering. I think Kevin had a contract that was out of town or something in the email I got. So I don't know if you had a chance to get with him or he's back, but that should happen fairly soon.
Alright, thank you, Councilman Chronister. Next is the Mayor's notes, just a few here. First off, congratulations to Mayor Pro Tem Randy Chronister, Councilman Rick Fisher, and Alex Scanlon for running again for council. I guess you like it. And with them being uncontested, we'll not have any elections in CLS in May. That's later on in the agenda. But congratulations again. That now, since y'all didn't do a full term, we got to figure out what to do with the silver dollar thing. So we'll have to figure that out. The little pieces. Also, just a great turnout to the Cajun Day this past Saturday. Thanks to Jennifer Rady for putting together the 5K run and walk. The golf parade was fantastic, and finished up with the gumbo cook-off at Okies with live Zydeco music. It was really good. It was a great band. Thanks to Mark Thompson for leading this event, as well as all the volunteers that assisted. It takes a lot of folks to put all that stuff on and together and everything, and also the Civic Club Board and everybody that participated in the event. So, good job. Just to iterate what Mr. Fisher said, the primary voting finished today, and don't forget that the next time we have a council meeting, it'll be daylight savings time, so we'll be able to enjoy some more daylight after our meeting's over. That's all I've got. Next is staff reports. Police Department Chief Keel.
Good evening, council members and mayor. The Clear Lake Shores Police Department conducted 291 traffic contacts. We made 1 arrest for driving while intoxicated, 5 narcotics arrests. We investigated 1 burglary of a habitation. We had 1 fraud report, 2 assault reports, 2 theft reports. We made 29 arrests, including 15 warrant services, and assisted other agencies on 8 occasions. We conducted 61 residential checks and 450 business checks. Any questions?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. You've got my report in front of you, but I'll skim over it. We had 10 permits in the past 2 weeks. They've all been minor construction. I've still got 8 homes being constructed. They're just being slow because of materials and lack of. Galveston Brewing Company is still still going on. They've done a little bit more inside. They tried to do some outside work, but until I have a parking agreement with the Lee property, that's going to be held up. Code enforcement of waterfront leases. I have 2 code enforcement cases and 54 waterfront cases. I've had a few people fix their issues on the waterfront. To answer Randy Cronister's question, I did speak with Pavement Services earlier, and they will be coming out this week to look at the pavement. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Harrell. Next is Clear Lake Shores Kema Volunteer Fire Department. Chief Rob Sneak is out, so Travis Hudson's captain here.
Good evening. So for the chief's report for the month, we had 45 total incidents, 22 EMS, 23 are fire related. 4 of those were aid to other cities. All 4 of those were actual structure fires that we were able to respond with. As far as our average turnout calls from time of dispatch to leaving the fire station, we averaged 79 seconds for that month, getting the trucks out of the station. And it was kind of a slow month for us on PR events. There wasn't much happening. We were able to participate in the Cajun event that just happened a couple days ago here in Clear Lake Shores. So that's all I have for Chief's report, if y'all have any questions.
Thank you, Captain Hudson. Next is Galveston County Health District, Amy Weber, not present. And then next is City Administrator Brent Spear.
Good evening, Council, members of the public. You have my written report as far as record. High flyover and things of concern are probably of most questions that I receive on the Texas Parks and Wildlife permit. We've got 95% drawings. I did speak with the engineer today, and he's going to review, make sure that the final revisions or revision C are complete. He'll submit them for our review. We know exactly what we're looking at, and he's working on the permitting. It looks like we'll be fast track permitted for that project, as we're not removing a lot of material, and we're replacing existing structure, so he's confident that that will move forward quickly. Kevin Harrell did talk about the Galveston Bay Brewing Company. We're still working through our legal team to make contact with Mrs. Lee's attorney regarding an amendment to that agreement. That's the first step, and the second step then is a licensing agreement with Galveston Bay. So the majority of that's complete. There might be some minor changes in that, open to negotiation, but we have been working on those things as well. On Plaza 1006, the elevation survey for, I guess we call it Captain's Corner. They should be out in that corner doing elevation survey work this week. And if you had opportunity here during the day when Public Works is here, there is a pretty shiny looking backhoe that is out and about. That is the one that's been refurbished. We have some minor issues with it, and they have a technician coming out for some touch-up painting, a couple other relatively minor things, but based on the way it looks and the way it handles, should be very functional for many more years. So that was a nice thing. And let's see. If you're looking forward to warmer weather like me, it's going to be here this week, so keep your eyes and ears open. Congratulations to the unopposed candidates, and welcome back for some more work on behalf of the city and the residents. The one thing that I'm going to be scheduling, have an opportunity for the elected officials to participate in emergency operations training for elected officials. It's normally about a 4-hour course, but that's a classroom of about 35 people, and there's a lot of introductions and talking and learning about each other. With a smaller group, we're all from the same city, probably be shortened greatly. So I'll see about getting that set up. There's no cost for it, and Galveston County Office of Emergency Management will put that on for us. Also, we'll get an early start on planning for a strategic plan update. That's something that was identified by Council and EDC. That is a joint project between the two entities. That's a fancy term for trying to determine and look into the future and identify priorities for the city and what direction the city is anticipating growth and direction. That also it's a document that's very fluid and can be adjusted, but it also provides direction to city staff, so that's very important. And we can identify our milestones as we go through that. If there are any questions, I'm certainly open to answer those, but the rest of the items are on the agenda.
All right, having none, thanks, Mr. Spear. Next is item number 6, public comments. At this time, any person with city-related business may speak to City Council. Topic of discussion must be consistent with an item listed on the agenda. In compliance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, City Council may not deliberate. Comments from the public should be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes per individual. Anybody like to speak? Having none, moving to item number 7, consent agendas. Council members want to pull any items A through D. Having none, is there any objection to the consent agenda? Items A through D. Having none, item 7 is accepted as written, A through D. Item number 8, new business. Discussion and possible action may be taken on the following items. Item A, Resolution 2022-05, a resolution of the City Council of City of Curly Shores, Texas, authorizing the mayor to execute settlement release documents with pharmaceutical manufacturers Endo Health Solutions Incorporated, Endo Pharmaceuticals Incorporated, Endo International PLC, PAR Pharmaceutical and Incorporated, and PAR Pharmaceutical Companies Incorporated, Endo and Teva, as additional settling parties with the National Opioid Settlement participation previously authorized by the city. Wow. Thanks, Brent.
That was awfully windy. You can tell that I wrote that. No. Thank you, Mayor. This is actually just additional settlement with other manufacturers, distributors of opioids. The city has agreed to settle with them for a cash payment that's to be determined with the previous suppliers. I think that was Purdue Pharma. And these are just additional companies that are jumping on that bandwagon to settle. So this came from our legal team. I would recommend approval of such, and then we can execute the correct documents and get them sent in. This does have a firm deadline of March 10th.
So does this mean that they're part of the ones paying, or they're getting paid?
These will potentially be paying the city as part of a settlement.
And right now, do you know the amount that we're earmarked for? There was like 6,000.
Yeah, I think it's 6,000 on the first one, and I haven't seen any documents on this. I did confer with police department that we have no outstanding issues, that they're not buying us off or anything like that. Everything's been dealt with as it came up, and there's no additional cost to the police department regarding this.
If I can get a motion from council, they should have to repeat the whole thing.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2022-05, and I'm gonna stop right there.
A second.
All right, motion by Mr. Cronister, second by Ms. Leday. Any discussion?
Did this how does this play into what we that 2107 that we passed back in, I guess it was October 19th? Is that all part of the same settlement?
Yes, it's just different manufacturers that are now signing up to get that, I guess, legal protection.
Okay, and I guess with these guys, we haven't, like I guess Kurt was saying, we don't have any kind of dollar amount, because I guess the original one we had here was $66.82, but that was just from that first one. So this is potentially more on top of that.
Yes, potentially.
Okay.
The first one was was the creator of the actual drug, so that's probably the larger settlement. This will be smaller.
Steve's out. Any further? Any further discussion? Having none, all in favor, aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item B, summary, discussion, and possible action regarding the police recording technology. Mr. Spear.
Thank you, Mayor. There is a written summary in my report, but basically we're dealing with Safety Vision, which police department has that recording technology, body cams and in-car cams. They're experiencing great difficulties in the syncing of those videos. They should sync together so your body cam flows with the car cams. That is not happening. There's additional delays. They're working with the vendor. The PD is working with the vendor to address these issues, and the police department officers over the last probably 3 weeks maybe are documenting their specific issues, because before it was just that it was messed up. So now we're getting exact, I guess, data regarding that. There is some improvement, but overall we don't have a great amount of confidence in Safety Vision being the solution for the police department going forward. We don't know what the problem is exactly, but we know that it's not working the way as intended, and we're having trouble addressing that. But we're working with them. The Motorola product that was reviewed approximately 9 or 10 months ago when we went through this process did not have a program in place called a service program. They now have a service program, and I think they recognize that as far as cost of equipment, to purchase equipment, it was probably outside the realm of a lot of agencies, and us included. But they have a service program. It's similar to a lease of equipment. It's got a 5-year term, and it includes the body cams and in-car cams. And Chief will speak to the specifics of that. In your packet, I will also add that there was a lot of documents and numbers and model numbers and things. That's what we received from Motorola initially, and they've since submitted a revised quote that's specific to us. They were trying to get us to give us a 10 unit and a 10 unit, and we're not that big. We're not 10 cars, so that's just too much equipment for us. This technology, over 5 years, at 3 years can be replaced. It's covered for warranty, for wear and tear, for batteries that go dead if they do. They have removable batteries, which is interesting because our current system doesn't, and they have to be sent back to the factory to have a battery replaced in them. So there's some downtime there. There are no grants available for the service program, as they only recognize equipment purchases. And an equipment purchase of this magnitude would be a couple $100,000, and then you own that equipment, and as it goes out of warranty, you're going to be paying repair bills and whatnot. So the service program makes a lot of sense. This item's not been budgeted for this year. I would anticipate it would certainly be incorporated into next year's budget as I build that. But we do have some unrestricted funds in a PD, the police department's donation account, that would cover this expenditure. And that money was also part of the money that we were going to use for some upfitting on our new units. So we had another use for it, but there is enough to cover this expense and get it off the ground. So I'll turn it over to Chief Keel so he can discuss the particulars and provide additional insight for you operationally.
So I guess first and foremost, I need to stand up here and tell you why I'm back up here talking to you about cameras and body cams since we did this less than a year ago. So when we originally went with the lowest bid for the in-car systems and the body cam systems, which are required by law, we took the bid from Safety Vision, and I guess anytime you take a low bid, there's a risk involved. We were assured that system was designed for this and would be exactly what we needed, and it only cost us a considerable amount of money to find out we were wrong. So if we're looking for somebody to point a finger at, it's me. I championed that agenda item because we needed to replace old systems and systems that weren't working. So, in response to finding out over the last several months, initially there's an installation period, and there's periods of working out bugs, and we worked with the vendor back and forth, and then another issue would pop up, and another issue would pop up. We would address those things, and finally you just got to the point where it's just not working. And when you think about it from the perspective of the officer is not going to be the one to explain to the court why we don't have proper equipment, or our recordings appear to be either damaged or looks like they have been messed with, or frames have been deleted. It becomes a bigger issue, and it won't be the officer explaining that. It'll be me, and it'll be the city. So we have worked with the vendor. We have run firmware updates. We have had technicians on site. We have allowed technicians to remote into our system, trying to fix the problem. Other problems popped up with the battery life. Those batteries can't just be taken out. They have to be sent in, unsoldered, and a new battery installed. It's just, I'm finding out that this system isn't used for this type of work, which is not what we were told. So, the blame is mine, and I'm here to tell you that we have to move forward, and we have to figure out an alternate solution. So recently, while I was out of town for training, we had a vendor come down from WatchGuard, which is now owned by Motorola, and they brought us spec sheets and information on their systems, which the majority of police agencies have either WatchGuard prior to Motorola, WatchGuard now, and Axon, which used to be Taser. The systems are comparable. However, Taser is about 2 times the price of WatchGuard, which is about 3 or 4 times higher than Safety Vision. So the mistake on my part was to assume that the cheaper version would be adequate. It's not. So we got the bids on 10 cars and 10 body cams, and when I returned back from school, I looked at the paperwork, and I found we don't need 10 in-car cameras. So I had to revise the bid for 7 in-car cameras and 10 body cams. That is the packet that I gave you earlier tonight. It is the information that's related to the M500, which I know I'm speaking Mandarin Chinese to you, but the M500 is a system that's programmable. You can program for warrants. It's got a license plate reader in there. It'll tell you if somebody drives by with warrants. You drive through parking lots looking for stolen vehicles. You can program that system to do anything, really. With that, we got a bid for 10 body cams, and that would include an extra body cam for our building official to have when he goes to site visits and dealing with the public, which would just be an added protection for the city against errant complaints and things like that. So the system that we're looking at trying to replace now, putting the Safety Vision aside, we'll deal with that in just a few minutes. But the WatchGuard system, I believe, is designed and used now currently by a lot of law enforcement agencies. Galveston County Sheriff's Office, Dickinson Police Department, Friendswood Police Department, I think Pearland Police Department has it. Some of them have, like Seabrook has the Axon Taser. Really no complaints in those arenas, but I think the WatchGuard would fit our needs better. With the service program, it is typically it's best described as a lease. where they replace the body cams in 3 years and carries you through the end of the lease, which is a 5-year lease. If you'll look to the back page of the Motorola packet that I gave you, if you want to get down to the brass tacks of it, the total price for all of the entire system spread out over 5 years is $135,220. That's a lot of money, and that's one of the reasons we kind of strayed away from that in the initial bids, in the bid packages. But that defers payments over 5 years, or 5 payments of $25,994. Due now price, if we voted on this, would be $5,250. The restricted funds that Mr. Spear spoke of earlier are funds that are donated through programs and individuals to the police department to be used as needed for equipment, training, things like that. That would cover us for this year and part of next year, which would give us the time to at least go back towards Safety Vision and try and recoup some of our losses. I feel like that Safety Vision program can be grossly characterized as a failure. And I don't stand up here and make any excuses for it. It's a failure. And it doesn't matter whose fault it is. While I stand up here and take the blame, it's not going to matter to a federal court who says that we didn't follow the law. And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. So I'm asking the council to consider this program for Motorola to replace the cameras that we have now, so that we can get moving, because I think there's a lag time in ordering and receiving.
So Brent just mentioned at the end of his spiel that part of the $38,000 that's in that fund was earmarked for the police cars. Are you saying that there's other money that needs to come out of it, or was that the part of the cameras and the cars? Did my question make sense?
Yeah, the unrestricted funds that we're talking about, that was there, it was as a pool of money to help outfit the squad cars. Our problem with our squad cars is we don't have that exact number, so and that what also was anticipated to be offset by the sale of our other assets. So we're doing kind of a magic dance right now, because we have marked units that need to be torn down and stuff put into new cars, but unless you have all the parts, you don't want to start that. And so I'm kind of dancing. I have one car that I can, with TK's help, we can get it ready to go, get pictures, and get it up for sale. And then I have the former emergency management trailer that we can go ahead and post that, but then and utilize those funds that are required to go back to the city for upfitting on the new ones.
When is the first annual invoice due? I mean, you say it's $5,200 due now, but I'm assuming the $25,000 is going to be due any day after that, right?
So the $5,000 would be to, I guess, start the contract, earnest money or something to that effect. The first $25,000 installment, we'd have to see the contract whenever we take delivery, whenever we get an installation and get the product up and running. So there's a little bit of a period of time where we're robbing from Peter to pay Paul, so to speak, so we can get the equipment installed into the new cars, which we're still waiting on components for. We're going to purchase this new system and get the order placed, and hope that that's going to coincide with the other components coming in and the other cameras coming out. We still have to keep the ones we have running and figure out a way to navigate that mess that we have to keep us going through the period of time before we get installation and delivery on the body cams.
Are we in any kind of binding contract with Safety Vision?
No.
No.
Okay.
we have a service warranty that is expiring in April. And we've had difficulty in dealing with Safety Vision over the last, I'd say, 2 months, trying to figure out our way through the system and why it wasn't working to standard. And I'm afraid with the lack of cooperation or lack of progress while we're under warranty, I'm scared to see what it's going to look like outside of warranty. I'll be honest with you. Probably when they find out we bought WatchGuard, the cooperation level is going to drop decidedly. So it's a little bit of a ballet, and we're having to try to choreograph this thing to get new cameras, leave these up and running until we absolutely have to pull them out, and get going with the WatchGuard. So that payment to WatchGuard, the $25,000, is probably 2 months to 3 months down the street, because we can't even take delivery for what they're saying 8 to 10 weeks.
Can I get a motion to discuss, so we can go further?
I'll make a motion to discuss item B.
A second.
All right, thank you. Discuss
Sorry.
I have a couple of questions, Chief.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that some of the local departments, such as Dickinson, Friendswood, Pearland, if I understood correctly, they're presently utilizing the Motorola system?
Yes.
Okay. If I understood correctly, or at least maybe I heard, I thought I heard, you mentioned something about possibly recovering some funds from safety.
Yeah, that's not a guarantee. That's myself and Mr. Spear trying to figure out a way to recover some money, because we feel like this system is a failure, and it did not deliver the promise of adequate video recovery recordings. The videos don't sync with the audio, so you're watching something that you're listening to 2 minutes down the street. There's jumps and skips and blank spaces that I got to be honest with you. If I'm a defense attorney, I'm going to tear that thing apart, because there's gaps. Sometimes the camera goes black. Sometimes the audio disappears. Sometimes you got audio with no picture, and sometimes you got picture, no audio. Sometimes the picture is at warp speed, and the audio is nowhere to be found. So you just got people running around. It looks like an old-timey film. So.
But we're not under any current contract with them, I guess.
No, so that was a purchase.
That was a purchase.
One-time purchase, which came with a 1-year service contract, and that is about to expire.
And last, I like the idea that it can scan license plates. Is it possible, and I'm just thinking out loud, to have a system such that vehicles coming on and off the island, that those license plates could be scanned?
Yeah, we have that in place now.
We have that in place now?
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
If you come in on Clear Lake Road or you come in on Birch Road, we have an LPR.
And that will
license plate reader.
That'll set off an alarm of some sort if there's a warrant or something for that?
No, it doesn't do that. That's not a programmable system. That just, in case something happens at a location somewhere on the island, I can lock into the time, figure out a time frame to look, and I can see all the vehicles that came on the island, and I can tell you who they're registered to.
Because what I've seen in some of these ones where patrol cars can literally drive through a parking lot at 5 or 6, 7 miles an hour, and it's scanning license plates that quick.
And this is the next generation of that. Those old license plate readers sat on the back of a trunk, looked like you forgot your briefcase. It sat on the back of the trunk, kind of sat up a little bit, and you drive through the parking lot and you read every single license plate in the car, and then a little bit later it would populate on your screen. But that didn't tell you who had warrants, things like that. We can program this if we decide to go that way, for local warrants, for felony warrants, for things like drug warrants. We can program it however we want it to use, and it's through the camera on the dash cam. Right.
Well, again, what I was thinking was, and I don't want to go too far off course, but what I was just thinking was if there was a way that if any potential undesirables, someone with outstanding warrants were to come on the island, that we would be, in real time, we could be notified right away.
I don't know that the technology that we have on these LPRs would do that.
Okay.
But certainly, if a car drove by we could have it set for felony warrants.
Okay, thank you.
So you said the cameras and all the recording devices, that's all mandated by law.
Yes. Federally, there's a mandate under. I'm not sure the statute number, but there's a mandate for having in-car or some type of recording of your contacts. Under the Sandra-Bland Act, which was enacted in Texas in September of 2018 or 19, there's other stipulations that you have to have certain things to go with that, and the reporting of how you administer this Senate bill is part of it. So if you're caught without the required recording devices, you're subject to pretty stiff penalties, including the police chief or chief administrator of law enforcement agency being subject to fines. So it's pretty important to me. I don't know how y'all feel about it.
Well, that come back and bite us too. I mean, just as a city, not just you.
Exactly.
So,
It puts.
so
it
we
puts
do
the
have to
city
have
at
something,
liability.
and the system we have right now is not living up to as
It's
as
inadequate.
advertised.
It's inadequate, and
Yeah.
and I'll tell you,
And
there's nobody else to point the finger at but me. I mean, I'm the one that came in here and told you that. So, the truth is, we took a shot. We took a risk.
yeah, you were going with what you were presented. They said it was going to work,
Yeah.
and so
And-
I guess
and-
if everybody asked a question, I'm just curious. You know, do you think we have, you know, any kind of good recourse maybe against Safety Vision to get, you know, anything recouped out of it, or
Yeah. Well, that's what we would have to entertain with our legal
yeah.
legal advisors that we have contracted with the city. No guarantee we get anything, but we certainly you don't get anything you don't ask. So we're going to ask.
Okay, so I got a question. Let's talk about the money.
Yes, sir.
We get the point, you gotta have it. So, what about the unrestricted funds? It was my understanding that we were paying for the upfitting and the cars with the CIP. So now we took some of the unrestricted funds and we've allocated that for the upfitting?
No, we haven't allocated that. What I'm trying to do is minimize the impact on the CIP. So originally we had 4 cars in CIP plus upfitting, and it was bumped to 5. So we have 5 cars now. So that I was just trying to spread that burden over other things. And we can go to CIP. That's not a problem.
Yeah. So the impact we have restricted funds, and those are only for the police department's use because they're through donations. Those restricted funds are a total of $38,000. So even with buying this system for this year plus the 5,000 jump in, I guess you call it, that's 30,000. We have enough to cover that, and there's 8,000 more that we can use to defer some of the payment on the upfitting off of the CIP. The money just sits there, and we need to use it. So it doesn't benefit anyone if we don't have it, if we don't use it. So
I got you.
the plan is to try and get as much money out of it as we can and use as much as we have available without impacting a budget that we didn't plan for.
So basically you're saying this will get you through the first year and a half, and then we're gonna have to figure out how to budget that at our next budget meeting in October.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
kinda what
I
I
would-
wanted to ask was.
So where do we get that from?
I would build it into the budget as recurring cost, and that cuts down on they have a budget line item that is miscellaneous supplies, and sometimes they run $10,000 short on that. It's just hit and miss on year to year. I try to build enough into the budget that we can meet their immediate needs and any reasonable unanticipated needs, but not to elevate it to a point where it's a free for all. You can buy whatever you want. So I don't think, based on our historical sales tax numbers, which is what I need to look at and try to forecast to, that a $25,000 fee for those cameras is undoable. I think it's very manageable in a budget. The one thing that does happen if you go down this road with a 5-year plan is that you're likely going to continue that. And Motorola's smart. They've figured that out. We'll get you started, and you'll never leave. We keep a good product. And it makes it easier for cities to budget to, and not have to try to make purchases for loss or warranty work or out of warranty work and things like that. So I think it's a good program. Chief knows that it's tough to come back and say, hey, we got this last year and it was what we wanted and thought it would work, and now it's not. And when we looked originally, they looked originally at the WatchGuard system and also the Taser Pro. Taser, I don't even think Taser even sent over a quote because they knew that they were so far out there.
The WatchGuard was about $125,000,
Mm-hmm.
and we had the bid from Safety Vision for $35,000. So yeah, it was appealing in that they do the same thing everybody else does, and we can get it for a third of the cost. Well, it's not a third of the cost. Guess what? So to have to come up here and tell you I made that mistake is, well, it's not comfortable, but I'm going to be honest with you. Doesn't matter who made the mistake. Doesn't matter. They sold it to us, and we bought it, and this is where we're at. So I have to try to fix it as best I can. We do have the funds to get the program initiated and in place with this with the WatchGuard. I think you could probably go to all of the agencies that I have listed, and I can give you a list of them now. Galveston Sheriff's Office, Galveston PD, Dickinson PD, Friendswood PD, Santa Fe PD. Kema has an older version of Safety Vision, and they don't have a lot of good things to say about it now. Of course, that information wasn't available at the time we made the purchase. It doesn't really matter. Here we are. So the restricted funds that we have is what I would like to offer to get the program initiated and in place.
Okay. Can I ask? We've had these cameras and body cams for several years now, correct?
No, the ones we have now are 10 months.
Right, but previous to that, we've had dash cams and body cams
Yes.
as part of our police department. What is our annual spend on maintenance and purchasing? I mean, we should be able to have an average for that, I would think. So really, this $25,000 a year minus that is the budget increase we're looking at, not necessarily just this $25,000. And I'd like to know that information so we can really understand what the budget increase is rather than just what the cost is per year. It makes it easier to compare the two.
I can answer part of that. I know that the provision that they had when I got here, there was no budget on that. They were purchased, and that was it. And it was contained in the rear view mirror of the car. And when they phased out support, technical support on that, they didn't have a product that we could use at all. So the budget increase is $25,000. If you're looking for a number for that.
Well, whenever we put the first system in, if we spent $100,000 on them, I'm just coming up with a number, and that lasted 5 years, our cost was $20,000 a year. Yeah. And then at the end of that equipment expiring because it wore out, we spent another $50,000 for 5 years. It's another $10,000. Just trying to get an idea of how much we've been spending per year to maintain our own equipment, so we can compare that to a rental program. This is kind of like the cars where we have all that data, but without looking at it, this is. So I mean, it's nice, but it's just a big number.
To put that into perspective for you, there was no budget previous to what we just purchased, and that was $35,000. So this is actually a budget decrease of $10,000 because we're going to spend $25,000 a year instead of the $35,000. But that's spread over 5 years. So $7,000 a year to $25,000 a year. Does that make sense? I mean, am I following the question?
A little bit. I think I need more historical data on it.
Okay.
Was there also any maintenance annually on the original set of cameras that you had that may help add into what we're looking at here?
On the ProVision that we replaced with
Correct.
Safety Vision, I'm not aware of any. I think they purchased those and that was it.
And then with the current set, those are all under warranty?
Under warranty, yeah.
And if they weren't under warranty, do you know about how much it would cost to maintain those out future years?
I don't have any data for that. I don't know that we would ever get to that point now.
Right.
So
I had one other thing to add. With the previous versions, including the one that we have right now, we have a video server that is isolated from the rest of our network, the city's network. It's isolated for two reasons: it's to keep people out of it, and number two, to maintain the integrity of the evidence that it's held on. So that runs independently in the police department. With the WatchGuard system, and I just priced a new server because we have a new server at City Hall that was just completed this past week. A new server is about $16,000 for what we use it for on our city side, and I would imagine that a video server wouldn't be quite as expensive, but it could be easily half of that, so $8,000. We have to maintain that server, and that server is reaching the end of its useful life. So you don't wait until it dies to try to replace it. You have to replace it close to the end of its death before it goes bad. This WatchGuard system has something I think is a huge benefit in that all of that data is held in secured sites, off-site, off-premise of Clear Lake Shores. And with that, we don't have to worry about duplicating that data, keeping it safe. It's held in 2 or 3 different locations around the United States, so it's geographically isolated to earthquake or tornado or whatever. And then that is accessed, I assume, through a secured portal. TK has, I think, some experience with that over the internet, and it's generated on that machine. So that's a huge cost, and we were going to probably have to eat a server of some sort on our police cam side. We had the one that we're currently using was repurposed from the last system, but we knew that with the amount of data that we were going to be acquiring through 3 cameras for every contact, 2 in the car and 1 on a body held, that we had to increase the storage capacity. And I can't remember what that went to. TK, you might went to terabytes. It was 10 or 12 terabytes.
10 to 12 terabytes.
Yeah, and so you've got an array of drives in there that's a lot of data for people that are computer people. I'm not that. So I think that's an advantage, but it's a cost that we would soon realize with our current system.
I believe it's a very valuable lesson learned, but also some of our police officers are out in the field with sometimes experiencing hardware that's not working properly, which leaves them in some unsafe desired positions. So
it puts them in a liability situation. Outside of the safety factor, there's a liability that we're all going to incur.
And
there's no easy way to put that.
One more question for you. You said it's $135,000 over 5 years.
Yes.
Now, is that just a lease of the equipment, or after that 5 years, do we own that equipment?
You do not. You don't own it. At 3 years into the term, they replace the equipment, so you get the newest, greatest version that's compatible with the system. And like I said, Motorola's smart. They got that figured out. So they'll give you the new stuff, and you have it for 2 years, and then you come around to your renewal period, and everything's working well. You're going to renew, and it's likely just they're going to have a customer then into perpetuity if they keep with that program. The cost of they don't call it really a lease, but that in my mind that's kind of the word that you would use to describe it. They call it a service agreement and a service plan.
We're just renting it from them.
Yeah, and so it doesn't get, I guess, caught in some email server somewhere. But it's a service plan, and then that's the way they refer to it. And the cost of a body cam on this new system is, I think, to outright purchase was over $2,000?
Yes.
It's over $2,000 per cam, and you own it, and they probably have a warranty for a year, and then you drop it in a mud puddle or you step on it and it breaks, then you're responsible for it. On this service plan program, you're paying about $600 per year, and so they've done the math. They know they're going to get $1,800 out of you, which is probably really that number that they're looking for in the open market, and then they're going to replace it with something new. But we would not own any of the equipment. We would still own the data, as I understand.
I mean,
but then I guess on this plan too, that means that since we're leasing it from them, we're also not responsible for any of the upkeep on the equipment. That'll be done through Motorola or...
Through the maintenance part.
Yeah, that's correct.
So we're going to be spending $25,000 a year. We can just count. We're not going to have any other surprise costs. So, if a camera goes down or something goes down, that'll be taken care of by them without any additional cost to us.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Manufacturer's warranty is all.
I mean, what's the typical life expectancy of these things anyway? If we did own them.
Technology, I mean, they may last
I
5 or
mean-
6 or 7 years, but the technology advances so quickly.
Right.
That, that's why they package in a 3-year upgrade. So I'm thinking it's probably around 3 years. And to do that again in 3 years would be even more costly if you're not in this plan. You're end up buying them again.
How are we getting away with only 7 if we have more than 7 cars? Maybe a silly
We have 7
question.
patrol cars, and the federal mandate, state mandate is if for any vehicles that are used for traffic enforcement and citizen contacts. That's why I shaved the bid off of 10 to 7.
Does that protect you and the other 2 who are not in a car with cameras? I mean, we're
Well-
talking safety here. We're
We would have
spending
body
money to
cam-
be safe and then saving money, taking a risk. I don't know how much sense that makes.
No. So the mandate doesn't require an unmarked car because we're not going to be making traffic stops in an unmarked car. So all it would protect us would be a body cam for an outside citizen contact. I don't make a lot of those. I sit in the office. So purchasing me an in-car camera system and a body cam, which we do have 2 extras built in this bid. If I go out and do something, I can grab a body cam and go. I don't necessarily have to have one on me all the time.
Any further discussion? We have a motion for any action.
Yeah, looks like this is something we need, so I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we approve the WatchGuard M500 system as on the sheet that TK handed out to us.
I'll
I
second.
second. Oh.
Motion by Mr. Fisher, second by Mr. Cronister. Any further discussion?
And this is committing us to the full 5-year term, correct?
Be for a 5-year term under the service plan.
Brent, you have some homework to do.
No further discussion. Take a vote. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion passes. I see Mr. Robert Sneager, the chief, is here, so we'd like to do a presentation, item number 3. So this is a certificate of achievement presented to the Fire Chief of Rob Sneaga and the Kemah Clear Lake Shores Volunteer Fire Department Achievement for ISO rating of 2. And working with the City of Clear Lake Shores in retrieving the required documentation and processes for the ISO, which is Insurance Service Office, to perform their audit, and being directly responsible in having the Kemah Clear Lake Shores Volunteer Fire Department and reducing their response time to less than 5 minutes, in fact, most cases less than 2 minutes. And combined with updating many fire department processes and procedures to greatly improve the overall performance of the Kemah Clear Lake Shores Volunteer Fire Department, which was instrumental in achieving the ISO rating of 2. I, Mayor Kurt Otten, the City Council, of the City of Clear Lake Shores commend Chief Rob Sninger and all its staff, including Mr. Travis here tonight, on their efforts to achieve this prestigious level of rating by Insurance Service Office. Congratulations. And I would like to get a picture, but I would like all to join in with the picture, including anybody in the audience or anything. So, council members. And with that, I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting now. Meeting's adjourned.